Welcome to Ecology Matters, a podcast from the Ecological Society of Australia, featuring ecologists from all over the country.
The biodiversity in this part of the world is just incredible.
It's not just ice and snow, it's teeming with life on the coast.
I see that and I say, okay, well, that's a great opportunity to study it more.
Looking at those sites gives you a sense of joy and hope.
Love being around, it's incredible.
It's just, it's a really awesome program, and it's just so healing, like, for our whole community.
It's the beauty of ecology, is that it's so interconnected.
Yeah, it's been really exciting, actually.
This episode, we're travelling to the beautiful south coast of Western Australia. Dr. Jenn Lavers and Ranger Hayleigh Graham work with the Tjaltjraak Native Title Aboriginal Corporation to understand and protect the delicate ecosystems of the region. They joined Ecology Matters to talk about their efforts to restore seabird colonies on some of their offshore islands and the importance of cultural burning to these species.
Hayleigh, are you able to tell me, across those years that you've been working with the rangers, what sort of work do you enjoy the most?
Well, I've always had a connection to the islands. I've always had that. So I've been to quite a few islands now around Esperance. So my favourite but scariest would be Figure of Eight. So that's the first time I've actually ever came across a death adder, which was very close to me, closer than I thought it was. It's magical and spiritual. It's a bit of a thrill. So that's coming across those death adders first time, so that was very scary. And it's a bit of a thrill, but I love going back there to where my ancestor sort of came from one of the islands. So we've actually got a story about the Boxer Islands, sort of passed down. I don't know the whole story, but I know bits of it, and feel like a connection there. So it's hard to explain. So once I get on there, it just feels magical. Yeah, so it's the spirit. You can feel like the country sort of talking to you. Like it feels good walking there, but our own sort of laws and stuff that we do once we go to them. So I love being around it. It's fulfilling. It's it's mindfulness as well as being out on country protecting it. So I'm proud of what we're doing now.
And Jenn, could you just explain a bit about your background and how you came to be working with the rangers?
I've been working with Tjaltjraak in I don't know if the unofficial capacity, but almost like a fly-in, fly-out for about 5 or 6 years now. So coming out and having the honor and privilege to work on the islands with the team. But it was only maybe a couple of weeks a year. And increasingly over time, it became apparent that really just wasn't enough for me, or I think for the team. There was just a real big push to do more in the sea country space. But also I was just increasingly drawn to this beautiful part of the world, and we know so little about the variety of species that exist on these spectacular islands. There's 105 islands plus hundreds of other islets and rocky outcrops and things. And if you ask me what are on some of those islands from a seabird perspective or even a landbird perspective, sometimes I would have to shrug my shoulders and say, we don't always know the answer to that question. So the opportunity to work side by side in partnership with the rangers and get out onto sea country and explore and describe was just it's a remarkable opportunity. And I'm so honored and thrilled to now be permanently based here, supporting this incredible work and working with amazing people like Hayleigh.
And in terms of the work that you're doing out on the islands, the cultural burning that you're doing out there, are you able to describe why that's important, that activity?
It's important for the habitats, for the still water habitats on these islands. So it's important. So we're collaborating with some of the Tassie guys, because they do a lot of the cultural burns over in Tasmania. So we're doing some cultural exchange, so a lot of it's but the burning is important for these birds, so that's the reason why I went out there. They're actually because of the lightning strikes. So once the lightning strikes on these islands, it's pretty much the fuel that's on the island caused by the vegetation pretty much can wipe out any species that are sort of on there. So, like on the figure of 8, there was a lightning strike on there, and pretty much wiped out a colony of nests there. And we've been going back. We haven't really seen much life back there yet, but we've got some good hope that we've actually found another species on the island, so it's even good.
You were saying that it wipes out habitat for the shearwater. When you're going back, are you looking for burrows for the shearwater and looking for new chicks, are you?
Yes, so every time we go into the island, it's very fragile. So when we're walking after the fire, like to a bit of figure of 8, because the vegetation was burned and the structure for the barrier wasn't solid, good for it. So just even stepping on the island, we collapsed a few barriers. So it's also important for the culture bird, just so it keeps that structure and solid for the barriers. So when people do go on islands, and even though they shouldn't be going on there, but to keep them safe, I suppose.
And if you're checking burrows, I'm assuming you're having to risk coming across more of those death adders and other snakes.
Yeah, so also on the figure of 8, we got on the top of the bridge. We came across 2 tiger snakes. I was a bit scared then. I didn't want to put my hand down that burrow, but thought I got over it and got a bit excited and wanted to know what these shearwaters was. So I didn't actually see one until we actually got on that island. A good feeling, just holding one of those shearwaters in your hands. And
is it just figure of 8 island that you're looking at the shearwaters, or is it other islands as well that you're doing your seabird research on?
So we're doing on quite a few of the islands. So Jenn never had a chance to come with us. It's Door Island. It's one of the last little islands in the archipelago to the east of the Esperance. Probably going to a Boxer, but like with Boxer Island, I would really like to go on that one. The connection to that, and like to get that feeling what it would be like to walk on the island. My family's told me great-great-grandfathers come from.
Is it Middle Island that the Gilbert's Potteroo has been found on and is breeding? Are you working with that program?
Yes, I'm actually I'm usually the one that goes out and maintain and monitor, go and check out swap out the SD cards from the islands. So also had an opportunity to pen more on the island. So there's quite a few areas covered around us. So went back there again next time and actually got some good footage of some baby potteroos on this. So it's a good sign.
Do you find the snakes on Middle Island as well? Is that something the Gilbert's Potteroo is having to deal with as it's trying to rebuild its numbers?
Really, it's not. I think it's only really the copperhead snake that's really dangerous, but not really that dangerous. Sometimes I haven't really come across them, but I'm qualified snake handler now.
In terms of other threats to not just seabirds, but the wildlife on the islands, I know it's a very broad question, but what sort of other threats to wildlife are the rangers managing?
Microplastics is another impact as well. So all those small microplastics all sort of deteriorate and all end up onto the beach, and seabirds and fish are digesting them. And we've been doing some fish ecology with Tim Leary, actually catching the bream, measuring them, cutting them open, just checking what's in the contents in the stomachs. And we have actually found a bit of microplastics in them, and also the shearwaters, they sort of tend to eat those as well. So it's not a good feeling when you're dissecting them and you find all these small microplastics in there.
What sort of plastics are they? What sort of items?
Yeah, it's pretty overwhelming. Haley's absolutely right. Almost everywhere we look, we're finding it on the beaches, in birds. So we picked up just 2 bird samples the other day, and sure enough, right away there were plastics. So far we're looking at plastics you can see with the naked eye. So it's microplastic fragments. So we have no idea what they originally came from. Could have been a shampoo bottle or a laundry basket or really anything that made its way out into the ocean and then fragmented up. We also are starting to see a lot around the Esperance region and also broadly around Western Australia and Australia as a whole in the world. These things called nurdles or resin pellets. So it kind of looks a little bit like a rice grain, except it's round. And this is actually how we ship plastic around the world, is in this pellet form. And if you can imagine us shipping rice or wheat or corn or really any grain, there's leakages at each point in the transport system. So the train car to the ship and so on. And so same thing when you ship plastic in pellet form, you get these leakages. And so we have many, many millions of these pellets in our oceans already. And they look a lot like fish eggs. So they turn up in a lot of our marine species. And so that's part of what we're looking for here. And over the next year or so, a couple of years, we're also going to be expanding that work to look for the even smaller plastics, stuff you can't see with the naked eye, what we call nanoplastics. So we have to stay tuned for that. We don't have any data yet. We will soon.
Jen, I know that's your large part of your background is looking at marine debris and seabirds. Is it true that you have a particular interest in islands, this issue on islands, and why is that? Why are islands such a point of interest for you?
Yeah, islands are really a big passion point for me. For a long time, I used to say that islands were kind of, as a scientist and wanting to run experiments, they're kind of the control site. When you run an experiment, you have your animal or your site where you run your treatment, you expose the animal or something like that. And then you have a control site tucked neatly away where you kind of prevent the animal or the habitat from being exposed to whatever that change or that pressure is. And so when it came to plastics and other pressures, islands were these little oases, these refuge out there in the vast blue ocean that were less under pressure. And that's still very much the case. But I do have to say that over the last 10 years or so that I've been doing this work, we are seeing increasing amounts of pressure on our offshore islands. Even the most remote, far-flung ones, we're seeing plastic impacts and other impacts on those places. So islands are still passion, and they still play a really important role in understanding how things are changing and how much pressure is taking place. But we do need to be mindful of how much pressure we're putting on the remotest of the remote places on our planet.
Hayleigh, how do you feel about that? Considering the problem seems to be increasing, and what would you like people to do about it?
I suppose the only thing we can do is keep trying to educate the wider community how important it is not to litter and to put their rubbish away. We have to care for the council because we have only got one country that's gone.
Ecology Matters is a podcast by the Ecological Society of Australia, a not-for-profit organisation supporting ecologists and ecological science in Australia. We acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. To learn more about our work, follow us on social media, visit our website or sign up to our newsletter. You can find links to these in the show notes. The theme music is Glow by Scott Buckley. Lastly, thank you to all the ecologists who have taken part in this series and shared their perspectives on why ecology matters.